Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering one of the most popular Dreamworks movies, Rise of the Guardians.
Based on a popular book series, this movie follows a team of childhood figures known as the Guardians who must stop pitch black from engulfing the world in darkness through children's nightmares. Yes. And you might as well say this is another one of Rascal's childhood. Yes. She loved this movie. I don't know how many times she watched it and how many times we've seen it and how much she's talked about it long before this podcast. So this is absolutely a really big treat for you. Mm-hmm. And then looks like one of the kids, a couple of the kids, they're adults now. Like Hermione Griffin.
Yeah, because the movie came out in like 2012. Right. So yeah, because they actually did have kids in here doing kids' voices. So yeah.
Except for Chris Pine.
And apparently the book series was called Guardians of Childhood. And I actually didn't know about this series, so I looked at the DVD and they actually showed the original books. Mm-hmm. And each book focused on a child figure, like the Tooth Fairy, the Sandman, Santa Claus, and their mission is, and they're like joined by the Man in the Moon, who actually had his own book, and he created the Guardians to protect children from harm and nightmares and stuff. So I thought that's a pretty interesting concept.
And this was a really different movie. It was fun. It had a great lesson. And the only part for me, as I told you later when you were older, is the Jack Frost portion of it. I thought it was hilarious. Chris Pine voiced it because we know how old he was when he did it. And it was like this 13-year-old boy had this really deep voice. But the only part for me is how he became Jack Frost. Yeah. And that's the only thing that I found disturbing, is how he became Jack Frost.
Right, and don't know if that was part of the book or was that like a movie interpretation in case he didn't have a book. And it was like, yeah, like if it's the Man in the Moon and has his power to give him ice powers and stuff, like he could have done something, or his powers not work like that. If that part wasn't clear. But let's have a little bit of the voice actors, which we pretty much all know most of them, right? So besides Chris Pine, who else is in here?
Alec Baldwin, who's hilarious. Jude Law, who I was really surprised was in this movie. Isla Fisher, she was in the, what was the fairy tale movie?
Shoot. You might be
Entangled
and Enchanted?
Enchanted, that's it. Yeah, Isla Fisher. Hugh Jackman, who everyone knows, is Wolverine and The Greatest Show on Earth.
Now being an Easter Bunny.
And so on. So, yeah, they had them and others, top-notch cast. Animation worked. Characters were believable. Really a lot of fun at the same time. They had drama going on and suspense.
Right. And it was funny with Jude Law voicing Pitch Black. It was funny because the way he sounded, his design, and a lot of people noticed that it looks like they probably had Tom Hiddleston in mind to voice him, but ended up getting Jude Law, maybe because he was busy with the Avengers or something. So he had to, was a substitute, because it was clear the way he acted, he was a lot like Loki. So it made sense when you watch it. It's like, yeah, he's like Loki, and they're like the Avengers, the Avengers of the holidays.
At one point, Jude Law was actually in high demand actor, like in the 90s, around the same time as Ben Affleck and Matt Damon became really big. Jude Law was really huge. He was in lots of movies. He was a golden boy. So it's kind of good to see him and hear him back into the game, because he was out for some time. He did the role very well. And as you said, either that or maybe he was inspired by Tom Hiddleston's performance as Loki, and may have decided to do that as well. Again, I was really surprised when it was him. I couldn't believe it was
You were like, who? Like, who is that? Like, yeah, that's so-and-so. And for the movie itself, like you said, it's just a lot of fun. And it brought up a concept that actually was a great idea, because if you think about it, it reminded me a little bit of the third Santa Claus movie, where they had all the holiday figures like Mother Nature, Father Time, Tooth Fairy, and so forth. And they had Jack Frost, who wasn't part of the council, and he was jealous because, everyone knew Santa and the Easter Bunny and stuff, but no one knew him, and that's why he was the villain. And here they kind of play with that a little more, but it was more for the villain, for Pitch Black. His thing was that no one, kids weren't getting scared, so they didn't believe in the boogeyman, so they weren't getting scared, and that's how he was getting his powers. So he was getting angry that, kids weren't believing in him and fearing him. And then what they have for Jack Frost is that he has been existing for hundreds of years, and if you think about it, in terms of reality, Jack Frost isn't as well known before this movie like the other figures.
Exactly, the mythology behind it.
Right.
Exactly.
Most you know is his part in a song and a Rankin and Bass stop motion thing. That's about it. But after this,
there he was a much older man, totally different design.
Right.
Very cranky.
Right. And then for here, now after this movie, no one's ever gonna forget for Jack Frost, because I remember after this movie came out, it gained a huge fan base of fans of the movie and a whole plethora of fangirls for Jack Frost. I mean, everywhere he became the favorite of the movie.
This also reminds me of, I don't know which one one of the Santa Claus movies where they had all the fairy tale, Mother Nature, Jack Frost,
it was the whole
all of them
franchise
in there as
well.
Right. So this reminded me a lot of when I saw it, I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of the Santa Claus with that one, except for Martin Short was a really, really rotten Jack Frost.
Right. And like I said, that was a great idea they did here, because if you thought about it, prior to this movie, no mention of Jack Frost. It was always seen
like in a Santa Claus.
Right. So it was a great idea to bring this to the forefront, and now Jack Frost is well known just as the others, and that really plays a part in the movie where he's been chosen to be a new guardian, and it's like, is he even good enough? Does he even want to be a guardian because of playing by the rules? And he's like a free spirit, and then of course you have the villain convincing him that you don't need to be a guardian, no one even believed in you, and it really, it doesn't play around with the story. It sounds like something that can be just really silly and goofy, but it's really taken seriously, because the more power this villain has, the less power they have, and it really does influence the world. It wasn't like something that only that few people will see, or kids. Like, if this had escalated, it would have engulfed the world. It wouldn't have just affected kids, it would have affected adults. So there were really high stakes here.
Now, I was surprised that there wasn't a sequel within the next year or two.
Yes, and I think because it cost them so much money, so probably over 1 million people lost their jobs. They almost went bankrupt making this movie. And it was probably just so tiresome.
So why did that many people lose their jobs?
I think probably in the term, sometimes it has to do with animation, or if there was a strike going on with animators or producers, stuff demanding more money or better working conditions when they film or when they write. And I think that's kind of what happened with this movie. It almost made them go bankrupt. It cost a lot of jobs. They laid so many people off after the movie was over. And they had proposed an idea to do a sequel, but it never went anywhere. And I think because they don't want a repeat of what happened. And just as when they're getting all this business from Netflix, with Voltron and She-Ra and the other shows, and then you got their next slew of movies, and I think they probably want to play it safe. But there's still a lot of demand for another movie, to see more holiday figures, like maybe through Thanksgiving or St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day, and other figures to get a spotlight in a sequel.
Now, who put this movie out?
Dreamworks.
I thought so, yeah. They are just fantastic at doing things that are just different, unique, groundbreaking. And this is another example of why Dreamworks is just, at the top of their game all the time with almost every project. Even ones that don't do as well, like Boss Baby, they still are groundbreaking and doing things that are unique and fantastic. Right.
So, if you have not seen Rise of the Guardians, definitely check it out. Or just buy it. Just go, don't even rent it, just buy it.
And if you have seen it, let us know what you think in the comments below, and whom is your favorite character in this movie.
Right. Because they also have a lot of great designs. I forgot to mention earlier. Lots of really great creative designs and the different worlds they had, especially for Santa Claus. Having the Yetis make the toys instead of the elves. They even brought that up. They said, I thought elves make the toys. Yeah, just let them believe that. And the elves were like idiots. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Hit her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to